Brian Falk here, setthepacetriathlon.com. We're doing a quick little video to talk about how to get your gear and what the setup is for a race that is point to point, either the swim to the bike, the bike to the run. A couple different races for Ironman distance events, 7.3. They're set up in different ways. I'm going to talk specifically about Ironman Tulsa in this one. So it gives you at least an idea if you're doing a point-to-point race, if they're taking you to a swim start and then you have a T1 in a different area than T2. It's a little bit more complicated, but it's not impossible. But I just want to give you a few little tips for that so you could have a successful and less stress-free type of race and setup. So we're going to talk about, like I said, specifically Ironman Tulsa, Oklahoma, May 23rd, 2021. You can see it there in the screen in the background. And to give you an idea, it is a 2 transition race. So if you look, this is the bike course. So we're out here at the lake when we start to swim, and this is your first transition area, and then you do the bike ride, 112 miles, point to point, and then you end up in T2, which is right by the finish line. So that's where everything will be at the end of the race. So this is going to be a key important factor is, A, you need to make sure, I've got videos on it, how to pack up your transition bags and your special needs bags. That all needs to be done and done well, because once you drop them off, you will have an opportunity to go back and check through them and make sure everything's there and everything. But typically, for the gear bags, you will drop off the day before the race, and you will usually drop them off in kind of where Ironman Village is. That's where a transition setup, that's where the finish line is. That's kind of their centralized hub for everything. So typically what you'll do is you'll bring all your transition bags, T1 and T2 gear. The bags, you'll drop them off probably near Ironman Village or near the second transition. So they'll have sections. Usually they have big crates where you put them in, or you might line them up on the ground. Usually if it's a point-to-point, they'll take the T1 bag and they'll put it in big containers, so that way they do it by numbers. And then when they get it to the transition, the first transition is everything up, they can do it efficiently and get all the numbers in the right place. So when you drop off your gear bags, T1, T2, you're going to drop off in the same place, but probably your T1 bags for the other transition are going to be in a special crate or something that gets shipped over to the first transition. So then your T2 bags, you will actually probably put them in order of wherever you'll pick them up. So once you come off the bike, you go through lines of bags, and that's where your bag's going to be. So you're going to put yours there in numerical order, and you're going to have an opportunity. We'll go through the progression of things, but you have an opportunity on race morning to go back and visit it. So day before, drop off T1, T2 bags, probably in the same location. T1 bags, or the bags that go in a different area, are probably going to be in a container or some sort of bin or something that they cart to the other transition. And then you put your T2 bag in line with all the others, and that's where it will be on race day for you to pick up. So we'll kind of fast forward a little bit. So if you're on race morning, you're bringing in your special needs bags. So if you want one for the run, for the bike, you got those 2 bags. Remember, you don't use them, you don't get them back. You use them, you're done. Whatever's in there gets thrown away. So don't put anything important in there that you want back at the end of the race, because you won't get it back unless you stop for special needs and put it on you. But still, anything valuable, I would not put it in your special needs bag. So you're dropping off bike special needs, run special needs, and this is where you get an opportunity on race morning. You're going to drop those special needs bags more than likely, because they're not going to want you to bring all that stuff with you when you're bused to the swim start. You're going to drop them all off around transition 2 area. So when you drop those off, you're going to have an opportunity to go through the T2 area and check everything there in your bag. If you forgot something, you can have an opportunity to put it back in your bag. If you want to check everything, or if if it's going to be hot, sometimes I'll freeze water bottles and put them in there to keep stuff kind of cool throughout the day. So you have an opportunity to go through and check your T2 bag, make sure and I'd make sure it's still lined up in the same place. I mean, there's going to be thousands of people there, so it could shift spots. So make sure you locate it. I always put special tape on my bags. I found some funky duct tape that usually nobody else has, and I put it on the bag so that way it's quicker to find. You're not really searching for stuff and make it difficult. So if you got to mark it, you got to put anything in there, you have an opportunity to see that T2 bag. And then you also have your morning gear bag. So that morning gear bag will be whatever you take with you to the swim start. You put it in that bag, and it ends up back at the finish line area at the end of the race. But so you got your special needs bags for the run, special needs bags for the bike. You have your morning gear bag, and the opportunity to check your T2 bag in the morning. So let's say you've dropped off your special needs stuff, you've checked on your T2 bag, you're ready to get on the bus to go to the swim start. So they're going to probably have a busing system that takes you from transition finish line area / Ironman Village area and will bus you over to the swim start. So there you will meet up with your T1 bag, because they will put them all out where you're going to pick them up, and they'll have them all lined out. This is where you typically have an opportunity. Check your T1 bag and make sure all your stuff's in there, if anything you got to do with it, and then anything that you didn't want in there or you want to keep for later, or right before you're ready for the swim, goes in your morning gear bag, and that gets handed off to a volunteer. So I've done several Ironman events by myself and pretty much have able to get through the entire thing without much difficulty. Self-supported, all my stuff that I plan, you have to plan out pretty well, because like I said, you don't want too many valuables, because there is the outside chance that your morning gear bag unfortunately gets lost. So you don't want your car keys in there, you don't want your phone in there. So I don't take car keys and I don't take a phone with me to the swim start, if it's a point-to-point race especially. So you need to either you have a friend that you can drop your keys off with, or you got a special place you can hide your keys that you can come back and get them after the race. But I would not put anything in a bag that gets in your Gear 1 bag, your special needs bags, or your morning gear bag that's super valuable and you want back. I would not put car keys in there. I would not put your phone in there. I would not put your wallet in there. Whatever you do not make sure those do not end up in your gear bags. T2 is a little bit different, because that bag should be there. So when you hand it off to a volunteer once you're done changing and stuff, it's not going to be transported anywhere. It should be relatively, they put it in another area, and that's where they go sort all the bags later. So let's say you got to the race, you dropped off your special needs bags, you checked your T2, you've gone over to the swim start for the point-to-point, so you're over here getting ready for the swim. You have your morning gear bag, you've checked your T1 bag, and it's all good to go, everything's good. So you've got all your morning gear, and you put it in your morning gear bag, you hand it to a volunteer, and you go do the swim. So you come back, you do your transition, you do your bike ride, you do your run, yay everybody, you're an Ironman, you cross the finish line. At the end of the day, you're going to come back probably to the finish line area, or it's probably going to be around the second transition area. They're going to have a big pin or corral. You're going to get a little ticket. If you want to give that, if you have somebody with you, like a Sherpa or something, they can go get this stuff for you, which I would highly recommend if you've got anybody that you can trust to go get your stuff. The last thing you want to do after you finish an Ironman is go stand around, and the line can get pretty long waiting for your stuff. So at the end of the race, you either have your Sherpa go get it, or you're there with your ticket. Usually you don't need a ticket if you're the athlete. You've already been marked with the numbers and stuff. You got your bib, so it's no big deal. What they're going to have is they're going to have your T1 bag, your T2 bag, and your morning gear bag all tied together, one big knot. So when they go get them, you should have 3 bags come back to you, and you've got all your stuff. So that's typically how a point-to-point 2 transition race usually runs. In my experience, I've done Ironman Boulder was a 2 transition race. Ironman Chattanooga is a little different, because the transition is in one place, but it's a point-to-point start for the swim. So the morning gear bag, you just have to remember about that. I'm trying to think of any other events. Ironman Lake Tahoe in 2013, when I did that was a 2 transition race. So they actually had everything dropped off at the first transition and then bust out to the second transition area. So it's just a little bit different how they run it. Usually, especially for an event like this, where the Ironman Village, second transition, the finish line are all going to be at, that's going to be your main hub for everything. So that is probably where they're going to have you drop off. Like I said, the day before, your transition run, transition bike gear, and then the morning of, your special needs run, special needs bike, and then you have your morning gear bag that you take with you to the swim start and put all your stuff in before you start to swim. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea and makes you feel a little bit more comfortable about gear in a point-to-point swim or a point-to-point transition, whatever it is for a particular race. And like I said, particularly I'm talking about Ironman Tulsa, because it is a 2 transition race, a point-to-point bike ride. Hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of how to plan your gear and how they're going to handle it. Like I said, they don't want you having to take your transition gear with you on the bus to get to one start line area or the other. So all you should have to worry about from the transition 2, they were going to bus you out to the swim start. All you should have to worry about is the stuff you have on you that you want to put in your special or your morning gear bag. That should all be all you have to worry about. If you've got Sherpas coming with you, hey, great, you can hand your stuff off to them. You don't have to do the morning gear bag, so that's one less bag for you to worry about, so that's great. More than likely they'll bust out the spectators, and then once you start to swim, usually they might hold off on busting out spectators, depends on where the road is, so they may wait for everybody out of the water and on the bike before they bust back spectators. So that should give plenty of time. I mean, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours on the bike. Should be plenty of time to bus all the spectators back to the transition area, the second transition area. So if you're worried about that, that's how they handle that. So like I said, the athlete guide is not out at the time that I made this video, so I'm just speculating from my experiences of other 2 transition races on how they handle the gear bags and stuff. So hopefully that helps you out. If you do have any questions, you can always put them in the comments. I try to check them daily. You can email me at info@setthepacetriathlon.com. You can go to my Facebook page. You can go to the website, setthepacetriathlon.com, put in a comment there. Reach out to me anyway, and I'll happily answer any questions you got out there. So happy training out there, and we'll see you on race day.